WNDS Sports and Tri-State Megabucks present Candlepin Skins. It's bowling with a whole new twist as New England's best bowlers battle for cash prizes in every box. Candlepin Skins is sponsored in part by the Car Phone Store of Nashua. Candlepin Skins is produced in conjunction with the New Hampshire Candlepin Bowling Association. And now your hosts, Doug Brown and Dan Murphy.
Hi, everybody, from the Londonderry Bowling Center. Doug Brown along with Dan Murphy, another edition of Candlepin Skins. Happy to have you along once again. Last week, Joe Ashline and Gary Carrington advanced to this week's program, and they'll be joined today by Paul Bourassa and Glen Shattuck. Last week, Gary Carrington not only advancing again, this will be his third week in a row, but he's won the last 2 weeks. Last week, he had to do it in the 10th box. Terrific match.
That's right. A lot of strikes, a lot of spares last week. All four bowlers bowled exceptionally well, but those two bowlers did a little better than the other two, and that's why they're back.
Last week, 277 was only good enough for third place.
That's tough, boy. When you hit 277, almost 140 a game, and don't come back, that's pretty tough to swallow.
Well, we'll see what happens this week. We'll get it started. The first of our two games here on Candlepin Skins right after we take this quick timeout. Don't go away. Here we go. Paul Bourassa and Glen Shattuck up on the approach to get us started this week on Candlepin Skins.
Paul will start us off on lane 30.
And he'll have a spare leave.
Glen Shattuck, lane 29.
And he won't need a spare leave. Strike in the first. And Paul misfires. Let's get another look at that strike from Glen Shattuck. It's a 9 box for Paul Bourassa. Now Joe Ashline and Gary Carrington step up.
Just itching to take that skin away from Glen. First Joe.
Nope. Give that first skin to Glen Shattuck for $10. Not quite for Gary. Joe starts with a 10. So does Gary Carrington. And that first skin goes to Glen Shattuck, as we mentioned, with the strike. That's how it works here on Candlepin Skins. Each box is a separate competition in and of itself, in addition to the 2-game total pinfall being important. Each box has a dollar value assigned, and if you get the high score in that box, as Glen Shattuck just did with the strike, then you win the money value of that box. If not, if there's a tie for the high score, for instance, if another bowler had thrown a strike up there with Glen, then the money would carry over to this second box. As it is, this box number 2 now worth $10. The first 3 in each game worth 10. The next 3 boxes worth 15 each. Boxes 7, 8, and 9 worth 25 each, and the 10th box in each game worth $50.
Glen won the skin in the first box, but he isn't real happy with the fill and really in the next box. Only 20 pins in those two, even with the benefit of the strike. Be hard-pressed to duplicate the scores from the 4 bowlers from last week. Some terrific bowling.
Spare for Gary, and that will take the skin unless Joe can convert the spread eagle. And he comes that close. Gary's up there saying, what are you doing here? Gary takes the $10. I still have Joe takes the $10. 10.
Joe, Gary was telling him you're trying much too hard, Joe.
I make you all kinds of money.
That close. Just needed that 3-pin to go down.
So this third box now worth $10 also. Paul Bourassa still looking for his first mark. He's got another tough split. Glen Shattuck. Possibilities there. And not quite for Glen.
No luck there for Glen Shattuck. 9 for Paul.
And 10. And Joe's got another spread eagle to work on.
Well, you got to make one of these. Enough shots after practice.
6 on the spare for Gary Carrington. Remember, a 10 leads for the skin right now.
That looks pretty good right now. It's looking even better. Ooh, it's looking real good for Glen Shattuck with the 10 box.
9 for Joe. And 9 for Gary, so the 10 wins the skin. $10 for Glen Shattuck.
There you go.
The other 3 guys are asking
Oh,
to
get
get
us
back.
out to the chicks now. I got a little better ball in that. I gotta get off the head.
Fourth box now worth $15. And Glen, thought he might have a strike with that piece of wood slipping in between the 5 and the 8.
Paul will shoot at the triangle left-hand corner, 4, 7, 8.
Oh, Glen almost went by, but he gets the spare. And Paul gets his first mark. Puts 2 spares up. Candlepin Skins brought to you in part by the Carphone Store of Nashua. When you stop in, be sure and let them know you heard about them here on Candlepin Skins, the Carphone Store of Nashua. Gary directing traffic. He wants the wood out from in front of the 5-pin, but it's in a bad spot right now.
So we already have the carryover with a pair of spares by Paul and Glen.
Joe and Gary will be open. So box number 5 will be worth $30 now. Joe Ashline doesn't have a mark yet. That's rather surprising. Since he had 12 in 20 boxes last week.
Needed every single one of them to come back, too. As we mentioned, Tim Licky was 277, and he's not with us. 8-pin drop on Glen's spare and 5 on Paul's.
And not quite for Paul. Glen for his spare, no. Paul takes a 10. So does Glen. See what happened with Paul. He made a nice effort here on the 4 horsemen plus the 8, and boy, if that wood had just turned a little bit, spinning out of the channel, he would have had it. Now, see, I just noticed something. Probably just maybe from sitting here too long or something. I don't know. But when I looked over at the scoreboard just a second ago, I'll tell you when we go back to it again. I'll tell you, though, that if we had a bowler named Ross here, if he had won a skin in the 4th box, it would have been very interesting. You're mystified, aren't you?
Yes, I really am. I'm paying attention to my job here. I don't know what you're doing.
Carry over with 10s.
See?
We see the skins under the skins column. It says Glen, Gary, Glen. If we had a bowler named Ross and he won a skin in the 4th, it would have been Glen, Gary, Glen, Ross.
Oh yeah, gotcha.
See?
Yeah.
On that note, wow, we'll take a break and we'll be back in a minute. Just 12 pins the difference right now between 1st and 4th as we move on here in game 2. Correction on the score sheet, by the way, so the next time you see the computer, it'll be correct. And Glen Shattuck has another strike. Gary Carrington had a 7 in that 5th box. So that is now reflected on the computer, and it's going to take a strike to have the skin now with Glen Shattuck. This is a $45 skin here in the 6th. Spare for Paul Bourassa, playing the cap of the wood. Here's Glen's strike.
Light hit on the Brooklyn side, but he gets a good mixing action and gets the strike. And he survived Gary. He's going to survive Joe.
And he does. So that $45 skin to Glen Shattuck. Spare for Gary. Not quite for Joe. He thought he had it. Takes it for the 10.
Still looking
Ashline
for his first mark, yeah. A little high there.
Ooh.
Although the wood went on the left side, the head pin went on the right side of the 7-pin. A little bad luck there.
No, I thought we were hit it.
Bourassa on his spare takes 8.
I thought it was fine. Anyway, not too low. It's afraid it went too low.
This is a strike fill for Glen Shattuck, and he spares on top of it. Good shot. 10 for Paul. Glen in the lead right now. Fine shot. That's his 4th mark already. This 7th box worth $25. Wow. Joe Ashline still looking for his first mark, and that one won't be easy. Gary Carrington on a spare, and he puts a strike on it, and that'll win the skin. Oh, yes! First mark for Joe Ashline, and it's a spectacular one. Let's look at Gary's strike to win the $25 skin as he taps the 4-pin.
So far, it's the Glen and Gary show. The ones that won the skin so far.
Oh, we saw a couple of great spare shots in that box, plus the strike.
It's a 5-fill on Glen's spare.
I know,
This 8th box is a $25 skin. Oh, how about it? Oof, almost. Paul Bourassa. And a 9 for Paul.
yeah.
9 for Glen as well. Let's check Paul Bourassa's, actually Glen Shattuck's spare attempt. Did I say 9? It was 8 for Glen. So 101 through 8, and now Gary Carrington working on a strike. Skin wide open here in the 8th, and Gary...
Oh, the wood stopped it from knocking that 4-pin down.
Joe now on a spare. And he gets just 3. Well, good spare for Gary. That'll be good enough for the skin unless Joe can solve this one. So give another $25 skin to Gary Carrington. Gary and Glen have gotten all the skins money here in game 1. And an 8 for Joe Ashline. Here's the spare for Gary Carrington. 3 marks in a row for him, and he has now taken the overall lead away from Glen Shattuck. Oh, really pulled that one to the left. Glen for the spare, and he's got it.
Good shot by Glen Shattuck.
Paul has to settle for 7. About the shot by Glen Shattuck. He's made a couple of great spares.
3, 6, 10, and the 7. Utilizing a piece of wood to clear the 7 out of there.
Boy, I don't know if, well, it may be a moot point now. I was about to say, Dan, that all the times that Joe Ashline has appeared with us, I don't know if he's ever had a game in the 90s. But he needs at least 1 mark. There it is, so he'll probably be over 100 now. I don't know if Joe has ever had a game under 100 here. That spare also creates the carryover here in the 9th, and Gary Carrington will take a 6 box after just 4 on his spare.
Try not.
So we go to the 10th, which will now be worth $75. Glen Shattuck working on a spare. Comes up short, just 3. Oh, Bourassa will touch them all. His first strike. Glen Shattuck will have a 124 opening game. That may be good enough for the overall lead, depending on what Joe and Gary do. It's Paul Bourassa's strike. Taps the 6-pin. Oh, a little off target. This is a strike, Phil, remember? And it's a 7 for a 112. Paul also leads for this $75 skin. Now he has to watch for Joe and Gary. Gary off target. Joe working on a spare. And he almost took it away, but he leaves the 8-10 somehow. So a $75 skin for Paul Bourassa, his first of the day, and Gary Carrington has a spare in the 10th. Joe can't sweep it over there. So Joe Ashline is going to be in 4th place after game 1. With a 105. Here's Gary Carrington's spare. If he gets more than 2 on it, he'll be in the lead. He takes 6 for a 128. So everybody's still very much alive here, but Gary Carrington leading by 4 over Glen Shattuck with 1 game still to go here on Candlepin Skins. Paul Bourassa with that $75 skin at the end leads the money list right now. Glen Shattuck also on the board, as is Gary Carrington. Joe Ashline looking for his first skin of the day. And also to come from 4th place, Joe is sitting in 4th right now. As we start game 2, Paul Bourassa leads off. Ooh, almost.
Almost where he left off. He had a strike in the 10th frame of the last game to win that $75 skin. This time, 9-pin drop leaves the 10.
Oh, and he found the opening. And on the other side for a 9 box. It went down, but it's a 9 box. Glen Shattuck. Five marks in game one for Glen. He also won a skin with a 10 box. Starts with the spare here.
Good shot, Glenn, huh? Good shot.
He's seen 3, 5, and 10 pins. Glen converts for the spare.
Let's see if Joe Ashline can turn things around a bit. Not seen him have too many strings down around 100. The 105 opener. He'll open with a 9. So Glen's spare leads for the skin. Unless Gary Carrington can do something about it. Oh, there's the strike. He took it away. $10 skin in box number 1 for Gary Carrington. Which makes box number 2 now a $10 skin as well. Oh,
Right through the middle. Spread eagle for Paul Bourassa.
Paul from Lowell, Mass. Works as a PC board designer for M-Tech Mass Design. Uh-oh. When you don't hear anything, that's not a good sign. And just 5 for Paul.
Only wins it for the carry.
Glen Shattuck now working on a spare.
Just 5. Cluster of 5 in a left-hand corner for what he hopes to be his second spare in a row. Oh, yes.
Shot. Not an easy one. You almost have to hit that a little full.
Run it in.
Spare for Joe Ashline.
Now it creates a carryover unless Gary can duplicate what he did last box. As you can see right there, a strike to win this first skin in this game.
Oh, Gary
not
almost
close.
comes up with a strike to steal another one. So that's a carryover. And a spare. Box number 3, a $20 skin now. No.
And it'll be just an 8.
Remember, at the bottom of the screen, the cumulative 2-game total pinfall for the bowlers adds up as they finish each box, so you can see where they are in the overall picture. Glen Shattuck just 3 on his spare after a 5 fill.
Like Glen slipped a little bit on the approach that time as he's taking his steps.
Uh-oh. Another quiet look. And just 6. Oh, an 8 leads for the skin right now.
Butch it.
Try to contain yourself, Joe.
think Joe will let this one fly or what?
I think so.
Oh, but it goes to the right. He knew that he had missed it. More important than the skin was the fill for Joe, and it's just 2 with the half Worcester. Almost works it out for a spare. That piece of wood will have to be checked, I believe. Oh no, actually it won't be. It's good. Can tell from here. And Joe gets by it anyway.
He's 2 ahead of Paul. Shattuck is 22 ahead of him. Carrington in the lead.
And he's won the last 2 weeks. And he's got a big fill on the spare. He will take 9. And if he converts this, he will have himself another skin as well. Yes, indeed. A $30 skin for Gary. I make it a $20 skin for Gary Carrington. Box number 4 now worth 20. Bourassa really needed something good to happen. There's a strike.
It's better than that. Strike on lane 29.
Just the 3-pin for Glen Shattuck. Oh, great effort.
Great recovery there, almost the spare.
Glen lives in Pinnacook, New Hampshire. Works at the Merrimack County Nursing Home. Does a lot of his bowling, Dan, at Boutwell's Bowling Center. You know anything about that?
Excuse me, where did you say he bowled?
I've forgotten. I lost the piece of paper. That perked you right up. Well, Joe gets a break, a big break.
3, 6, and 10 left for Joe, and Joe's got to make something happen here. Still low man here.
There's a spare. Boy, he got a huge break on that first ball because that would have hardly been a spare lead if those other 2 pins had stayed up.
Meanwhile, Gary goes about business here. 177, his total pinfall so far, and working on spare.
7 fill, a little too much of the head pin though, resulting in the split.
So they got to give the skin to Paul Bourassa in the 4th.
Oh, Gary made it. 4 marks in a row. The 2 make it the 3, 4, and 6.
Hello. Wow. Makes it look easy sometimes.
Put a star on that one.
All eyes seem to shift now towards 2nd place the way Gary is going. Still no ways to go yet. Paul Bourassa working on a strike. Opposite spare lead that Gary just had, although he's got a piece of wood behind the 6-pin, which could kick forward if he plays on the inside of the 2. Not catch any of the wood. 9 fill.
5th box, a $15 skin. And a 9 for Paul. 50 through 5. Glen Shattuck has 7 marks in this match, but he really hasn't been able to cluster more than 2 together. Plus, he's had real trouble with fills. 2 3s, 2 5s, and a 4 on a strike have hurt.
Oh, great effort there, trying to cut the 3 into the 5 and the 7.
Two 9s up here in the 5th. Joe Ashline doesn't have a skin yet today. And He's working on a spare right now.
I'd like to throw a strike here to get himself not only a skin, but get back in total pinfall race. And there it is.
That would be it.
You just can't keep him down all day long. It's just a matter of time before he makes a run at you.
His mechanics are so good. We talk about how hard he throws the ball, but his mechanics are very solid. His motion really doesn't break down very much, even though he throws the ball hard.
That's right. It's a real consistent ball thrower. This is on a fill for Gary. 6 fill, 3, 4, 7, and 10.
Joe takes the skin for $15, and Gary looking for his 5th mark in a row. Oh, boy. He had the right idea. He was trying to show us another one there. Still, though, as you mentioned, Dan, Gary threatening to make first place no contest here. 81 through 5. He's already at 209. Gary has a 32-pin lead over second place Glen Shattuck right now. Battle for second, though, is pretty tight. We'll be back for it here on Candlepin Skins. Paul Bourassa in the 6th box. And
Paul's still fighting. He's at 162.
he's only 15 pins out of second place right now. And there's a spare in the 6th. A $15 skin here in box number 6. And everybody has won at least one skin now. Oh, Glenn let that one get away. $9 for Glen Shattuck, and he's gone 4 boxes now without marking, and he is in second place right now, so he's kind of letting the field catch up a little bit. Joe Ashline working on a strike. He was checking to make sure that 9-pin was in the back, and it is.
He didn't want it to be back there, though. He's kind of hoping.
Oof. Put the 3-pin right between the 5 and the 9.
Well, all of a sudden, we've got a tight race now for second place.
Yeah, you look at Glenn and Joe just 2 pins apart, and Paul has a markup. Meanwhile, Gary just keeps plugging along, working toward another good score. Gets a break. Not a break on the 3-pin, though.
Paul Bourassa has a spare up in the 6th, so Gary would need this to carry the skin over, or it's going to be Paul's.
Let's see. So give it to Paul Bourassa for $15. He's now over 100 for the day. Paul Bourassa, the leading money winner right now. So far. 4 boxes to go. Great race for second here. Box number 7 is a $25 skin, and Paul Bourassa with a big fill ball right here. He's at 172 plus this ball in the 6th. Add 6. That will leave him 8 pins behind second place Glen Shattuck. And another spare. The 4 horsemen.
Very nicely done. Four horsemen plus the 9-pin for Glen.
Too thin on the head pin. And it's an 8 box. Well, Glen Once again, Paul with the mark already, and if Joe were to put one up, they might both pass Glen Shattuck. Glen has gone 5 boxes without marking. Joe will have another spare leave. He takes 9, leaving the 9-pin.
Gotta be careful of that piece of wood on the right. I think if he hits the red line in the other one, he should get it. Oh, he just drives the ball right straight through. What's the problem, Dan? You can throw the ball as hard as I am. This thing don't bother you. Get out of my way.
Oh, big ball for Gary Carrington.
Oh, and he steals it.
Takes the skin away. It would have been a carryover if not for that strike.
We make it easy. We just make it so easy for you.
Fellow competitors.
Hello, and it's a
Just a little tap right there. And it's enough for the 10-pin. So the 8th box now worth $25. 5 fill on Paul Bourassa's spare. Look out, there's another one, 3 in a row. All of a sudden, Paul is mounting an offense here.
Never seemed to give up. He just keeps plugging along, and he's caught fire here the last 5 boxes. He's got 4 marks.
Meanwhile, Glen Shattuck has gone the other way. He's been 5 open frames in a row. All started with that 6 box back in the 3rd. He'll be open again here in the 8th.
Yeah, he's kind of lost this little timing there, and he's pulling the ball right then left, and leaving a lot of pins standing. 2, 4, 6 pins in the last 4 boxes he's left standing. So Joe Ashline will definitely go by him. Paul Bourassa already has gone by him.
Joe taking a peek on the scoreboard, the big board here, operated by Cindy Sissom. Joe drops 8 on the spare. And with the wood, possibilities for another one.
He catches the 6-pin. He's got a chance of making this.
Yes, sir. Very nicely done.
Creates the possible carryover with Paul Bourassa. Carrington, no, just stole one with a strike. Right now, he knows he's safely in, so he can just kind of rear back. Well, I would say safely in, but.
Oh, Gary put up 2 fingers. He got a couple more besides. And really a chance for a spare here. Not quite. So that's a carryover, the 2 spares, Joe and Paul. And how about that 10 bucks? And as we go to the 9th, a $50 skin now in the 9th. Watch Gary's 10. A 4-pin coming off the wall. Get the 10. Still a great battle for second here.
This is a fill. Oh, it looked better than that. Okay. I was going to say. That ball was right in there. Leaves a 10-pin. Trying to make it 4 marks in a row. Put a little heat back on Joe Ashline.
Got it. Well, last week's match went right down to the final ball. Looks like this one might also.
Just totally lost the head pin now with that first ball. 4 horsemen right.
That was the ball Glen wanted. That would have been a critical spare had he picked it up right there. But now he may be in trouble going to the 10th.
I'm sure he is. It's all right if there's one person ahead of you. When you get a couple of them ahead of you.
Now this changes the picture too. A 4 fill on Joe's spare.
That's a break for Paul Bourassa. Obviously, it's not only a low fill on the spare, but it's another difficult one if he's going to match this markup already by Paul Bourassa in the 9th. wants to avoid a bad box.
Joe from Nashua, New Hampshire, works for Glen Electronics. And he might have heard him say, uh-oh, when he let that one go. A 7-box. That will give the advantage to Paul Bourassa going to the 10th because he's working on a spare. Looks like Gary Carrington is going to win in total pinfall for the 3rd straight week. He is already at 246 with 2 boxes to go.
Paul Bourassa again leads for this skin with a spare, and Gary Carrington will have to convert this to carry it over. Oh yes!
Oh yeah! I was about to say I wouldn't count against him based on some of the shots he's made. He just put a towel over his shoulder and a big smile on the way back.
Ho hum! It's another day at the office. Walk in the park. Just kicking that 6-pin over.
So the last skin of the day will be worth $100, and this last box will decide second place. Paul Bourassa with a 7 fill, but not a spare leave.
That'll only put him 6 pins ahead of Joe Ashline through the 9th frame. Oof.
Now these pins become important.
That's because if Joe does get a mark, he'll need a fill to beat him. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Open the door right there.
124, 236 for Paul Bourassa. And now he can only watch.
Glen Shattuck still has a chance if he were to throw a strike here, and he'd have to actually throw 2. Puts Glen out.
But he's still alive for the $100 skin.
That's right. It's a shot. You got to concentrate on the 2 and the 4. Possibilities if you get the 2-pin.
No! Glen was surprised.
I'll take it.
To fill it in the 10th. He missed the object pin.
Ball came back, hit the wood into the 2-pin.
And a spread eagle. That's the kind of day it's been for Glen Shattuck. 102, 226. So Glen will not be back. The question is, will Paul Bourassa be back? Joe Ashline needs a mark and a 4 to finish second. Well, he's got a shot at the mark. He put everything into the pit except for the 5-pin.
Yeah. The last one rolled in a little slow, but.
Yes, spare in the 10th. I don't want to tell you that. That's tough to do. Put 9 pins or 10 in the pit.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Now he needs 4 pins to pass Paul Bourassa for second place. Uh-oh.
Oh, he got it. And 1 more for bonus. Joe didn't want to waste any. 133 and 238. That also, by the way, creates a possible carryover unless Gary throws a strike here. $100 skin on the line here.
And wouldn't Gary like to do that? He's got a chance. Oh,
It's stupid up there.
a little better than that, but he'll take the 6 on the spare, so we're going to have a carryover.
Have a little more bowling here after our next break. Decide the last skin of the day. Gary's going to be up around 270 somewhere. 143 and 271. Gary Carrington wins total pinfall for the 3rd week in a row here on Candlepin Skins. Joe Ashline second again. And we'll be back. We've got a $100 skin to roll off when we come back. Paul Bourassa will go first as we have a $100 skin to settle here. Remember, if there's a carryover, only the bowlers involved in the carryover will continue. Uh-oh. Wait, Glen can't he just can't buy a break right now. Paul Bourassa puts a spare up.
He's been the hot bowler going down the stretch.
And Glen is through. So he will reset. And that will leave it to Joe and Gary.
If these bowlers Cole's going to wind up and throw this, maybe.
Spare leads for Paul Bourassa. And possibilities for Gary Carrington. Joe Ashline has possibilities too, a little more difficult shot. Nope. Joe Ashline is out of it. Gary Carrington stays in it with a spare. We'll go another box, and they'll stay up there together. $100 skin here. And whichever of these bowlers wins it will be the top money winner of the day. Gary's already won the match. Well, two splits. This could get interesting. Two big pins there for Gary. Oh, that might be the difference right there. Let's see. Gary gets a 10. That may be good enough. Oh, great effort by Paul Bourassa. But by that margin, Gary Carrington takes the $100 skin to wrap it up here today. And we'll be back to wrap it up in a minute. For the third week in a row, Gary Carrington wins in total pinfall, 271 this week, so he'll be back next week for his fourth straight appearance. Joe Ashline finishes second to Gary once again, so he'll be back for his third week in a row next week. Paul Bourassa and Glen Shattuck finishing just out of the top two spots. As for the prize money winnings today, Gary Carrington taking the lion's share of it with $215, Paul Bourassa $105. Glenn and Joe also on the tote board as well. But Gary is funny. He's very consistent. Really was never threatened for the lead. Pretty much the same story has been since he started, except for last week when he had to win in the end. But he's been very consistent and letting the other guys chase him.
That's right. 271 comes back this week. Last week, Timmy Lipke was 277, didn't come back. So how do you figure it?
Well, next week we will be back, of course, with Joe Ashline and Gary Carrington and two new bowlers here on Candlepin Skins. Don't forget, tomorrow at noon from Park Place Lanes in Wyndham, we'll have Candlepin Stars and Strikes, as we do every Sunday at 12 noon. Until then, for Dan Murphy and the whole Winds of New England crew, I'm Doug Brown. Have a great weekend, everybody.